Country roads take me home to the place I belong. Federal prison needs supervision. Take me home, put me on death row. Having just beaten Red Dead Redemption 2 and its long-ass, unnecessary-ass epilogue, I have to say, for a game that's supposed to be one of the best of the generation, this is the second most overrated game I have ever played, with the only possible exception of Breath of the Wild. Look, there's some really good stuff in here. There's a good template to move forward with for a sequel. Oh wait, this is the sequel. Well shit, possibly because it doesn't have a whole lot of competition, this is definitely the quintessential Western game. If you want to roleplay in a Western 1800s experience, despite the fact this actually takes place in like 1907, this is your game. You're not going to find much better than this. And undoubtedly, Rockstar's created one of the best, most detailed, most living, breathing open worlds we've ever seen in games that is held back hard, like yanking on a horse's reins hard, by severely outdated game design, downright amateurish writing, and fundamentally broken game mechanics. The thing about 4K, for those of you who don't have a TV, haven't upgraded yet, if you look in the foreground of the screen, you're actually not going to notice too big a difference. Like Arthur Morgan, when he's in third person, you know, his gun has a nice shine to it, he's got nice texture on his coat, but where the 4K really comes into play is in the background. This game has downright perfect anti-aliasing. There is not a single jagged edge in the game. You can be standing on one side of a canyon and you can see clear across the canyon to the mountain range on the other side. Crystal clear. And you can see the trees moving in the wind. It is insane. The amount of immersion in just the world detail is extremely high. And that tends to be the theme of Red Dead Redemption 2, is that it goes for a more immersive, realistic, slow, deliberate experience over an arcadey player comfort experience. And that right there is going to be the crux of, I think, whether or not you enjoy the game. Is if you're willing to put up with a lot of concessions in gameplay for a more realistic experience. The game world's got a good variety of plains and forests and mountains and snow. I do think there's too many swamps, and frankly, for a game that's a Western, I don't think there's enough desert. And this beautiful, gorgeous open world is only ruined by the shitty, garbage, awful weather system and the terrible day-night cycle system. Look, if you're trying to make something visually appealing and you want to have a good night, you don't make night black, you make night blue. Look at Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. You have the moon bathe in light, so you have a distinct change of color palette, but you can still see. This game just turns black. It is terrible. Now, if you wanted to have an incentive to, like, sleep or rest at camp or something, and you're not actually supposed to travel at night, that'd be one thing, but it's not like it's any more dangerous. I mean, and whenever you're in a shootout, the enemies all still glow, so you can just tag them all with Deadeye, so that's not a problem. In fact, I tried the HDR at my PS5's default. I tried it at, like, the maximum brightness, and I tried it at the minimum brightness. This setting in the game that says, like, make sure the Rockstar logo is visible, I could not get visible, regardless of the setting. All the way up, all the way down, that logo's blank. So I gotta say, for somebody who's only recently moved into the new generation, HDR has been the biggest letdown. And for shit's sakes, why does every game have to pour rain and block everything with fog and get all cloudy so the sun glare covers the whole sky? Why? Why do they feel compelled to do this? For all the things you can change and customize, can you just let me turn off the weather, please? Just have some clouds pass by overhead. You can have a light snowfall if you want because snow is pretty, but the rain looks terrible. My character gets all wet, and now I feel dirty and wet, like my boots and socks are soaked through, so every time that happens, even though it's just a video game and it doesn't matter, I have to go in and get a bath and change my clothes, because I'm so immersed otherwise in the game. As far as the combat and the gunplay goes, you know, the Wild West, it's a great setting. Revolvers are cool, lever-action rifles are cool, double-barrel shotguns are cool, and I gotta say, there is no reason to ever not use Deadeye, unless you're trying to like, roleplay a little bit, and you round a bend and you just quick draw and then you can feather the hammer by just spamming R2. That looks cool, but it tends to be wildly inaccurate unless they're literally right in front of you. It's not worth it. And even if they are right in front of you, just use Deadeye. So here's the thing. The entire combat loop is entirely broken. It amounts to L2, R3, R1, and then you tap little X's on everybody's heads, and then Arthur just kills everybody instantly. There is zero challenge in this game at all. And there's little coin tokens and snake oils that you can drink to refill the meter, and then you can give yourself a health shield. The gunplay itself feels like it's straight out of 2005. And there's smoke trails on every single shot fired, and look, I don't know if you've ever shot a gun, there is not a smoke trail. Believe me, as a far-right conservative, Nazi, white supremacist, insurrectionist, I shoot a lot of guns. Not one time has there been a smoke trail. It is so out of place and cartoonish in this otherwise beautifully realized, really lived-in, super high-res world. The outdoor gunfights get really repetitive, but there's something neat about the indoor ones and you feel like you're in Django Unchained when you kick open a door and just flick pop, 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 everybody. And when you're firing, you have to manually pull a R2 after shooting to chamber the next round, which is fine, but it always throws off your accuracy so that you're ready to shoot on the red dot, but oh, you just rechambered the round, so then when you hit R2 again reflexively, you miss because you're now over his head. When you run at people, you basically just tackle them, and then it's an awkward pause before you execute him with your gun. So even if you have like your machete equipped, like it's really hard, it's really awkward and clunky to try to just kill people in melee hits. Moving in and around cover is a nightmare. There's a dedicated cover button in R1, and even if you're right in front of cover, the game will teleport you to 10 feet down to slide into cover of rocks. It cannot tell where you want to get in cover. It's like, if you can't figure this out, just have a soft lock on to the cover, let us crouch, let us peek around the edges, because it gets me in really weird spots all the time, and it's the controls are not great. For a supposed masterpiece of video game, it isn't. It is very clunky at times. So when you're inside a building, it defaults you to a slower speed because, you know, you're downsized, so, which makes a little sense. But there's a lag between getting look, it's not Witcher 3 bad at launch, but it is definitely subpar for what I would expect in a 10 out of 10 masterpiece of the genre. When you're galloping at full speed, generally the horse control's okay. Every once in a while, it'll steer left or right suddenly out of my control into a tree. And for some reason, talking to people with triangle is on the same button as physically grab somebody in combat. So whenever I'm running up to the stagecoach, if I don't slow down all the way and like take a second and then aim, you grab the stagecoach driver like by his throat. And then you get a bounty and everyone freaks out and then he runs away and now you can't use the damn stagecoach, so you gotta get on your horse or use the train, drive somewhere else, try it all over again. Red Dead's a shooter, so when you're not riding around on your horse for hours on end, you're shooting, so you have guns. So the revolvers are pretty cool. The Schofield revolvers, as neat as they look, they are worse than the Cattleman revolver in every way. You have the double action, the Cattleman, and the Schofield, and that's it. And then there's like a high roller revolver, which is a quest item. You can't actually buy that anywhere. So I don't think there's enough revolvers. There's not enough calibers. They all do basically the same damage. There are a good amount of long arms. You have a double barrel shotgun, you have a pump action shotgun, you have 3 or 4 lever action repeaters, and then you have like 5 different bolt action rifles. It's very weird. It should have just been like repeater 1, 2, 3, shotgun 1, 2, bolt action rifle, and then Springfield trapdoor rifle. Like there's a rolling block rifle and a Carcona rifle, and I haven't even unlocked them all at this point. When there's this many guns, they start to feel redundant. Have less guns and let us customize them more. And there are far too many automatic guns, which is to say more than 0 automatic guns. Like, regardless of when the automatic shotgun was actually first invented, this feels like a 21st century item. Dude, you wouldn't see this in a World War II game. Why is it in a Western? It's like, bro, don't be afraid of your own time period. Commit. Have more revolvers. Have more lever action. All right, who are you, Battlefield 1? You have to put an automatic in everywhere? And for a game that's, again, supposed to be all realistic and immersion, why can I not buy certain guns at the store? There are guns that are available. They're sitting in the little catalog, which is a dreadful way of traversing the shops and the merchants, by the way. You can't just tap left and right on the D-pad. Like, just open a normal shop menu and show us a little picture of the item and have them flick by quickly. Don't make me open a damn book. Don't make me walk around the shop. And there's guns that are just locked that you just cannot buy. And it's like, okay, immersive Western simulation, huh? Why won't this guy sell me this gun? I have the money. And it's at this point where the immersion clashes so hard with the player comfort. It's like, bro, if you're gonna go all in on realism, when you don't go in on realism, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's twice as bad. And look, I'm not asking for an arcadey game. So you have every single gun that you purchase on your horse, which I think is a little silly. I think that's too many. I would restrict that. I would say 2 long guns on your horse, 1 long gun on your back, back, and then 2 revolvers on you and 4 revolvers on your horse. And then maybe you can upgrade the saddlebags or add an extra sling or something. And then you have to go back home to your weapons locker to swap stuff out. I like the idea of having to plan ahead, decide what guns you want. And I have to say, before I played this game, everybody was complaining about the horses crashing and dying and like, oh god, it's gonna be such a pain in the ass. Surprisingly, that didn't bother me at all, because it rarely happens. It only happens really when you're trying to. Like, if you drive your horse off a cliff, your horse should die. That makes sense. And in certain spots, the attention to detail and the effort towards immersion actually works quite well. And I think it's like, oh, okay, this horse is a living, breathing animal. It's not an indestructible car. I should be careful where I take it. And Arthur's animations, too, are really well done. You know, he waves at people, he plays with his beard, he moves his hat, he leans against the bar. All very nice touches. And the survival aspects of that, where you have to brush your horse, you have to feed your horse, you know, you have to account for hunger and cold, you have to eat food, you have to... What? Now, it said, the game is constantly telling you, you don't have any cold weather coats on your horse, what the hell are you doing? And I never, ever, ever got penalized for that. So even when I'm up in the snowy mountains, in the story missions, sometimes the game just auto-equips a winter coat for you. The game auto-equips your weapons a lot of the time too, which is a huge pain in the ass. I feel like every time you get off your horse, whichever primary long arms you selected get stuck back on the horse, and I'm constantly trapped in story missions away from my horse with only my 2 pistols. Why does it do that? And especially in the epilogue, when you're playing as John Marston, it's constantly putting you back into his stupid, ugly rancher outfit. Dude, if I wanted to wear that, I wouldn't have changed out of it in the first place. And I really like how your guns get dirty and rusty, and you have to wipe them down with a rag with gun oil while your finger is on the trigger. Nice trigger discipline, Arthur. Wow, being real safe there, huh? Idiot. But again, Rockstar went through all this effort to make you feel immersed and to have there be a lot of player interaction with taking care of your horse and all this stuff, and healing is just eating. And suddenly, a ribeye and a can of peaches can heal grievous deadly bullet wounds. It's like, dude, can you not just have a medical kit? Can you not wrap your arm in a bandage, or pour some alcohol on a wound, or dig out a bullet with your knife or something? You know, Far Cry 2 did this perfectly. And for some reason, drinking a potion makes you impervious to bullets. It's very, like, look, drinking potions and having adrenaline and, you know, getting energy makes sense for stamina. It does not make sense for healing grievous mortal wounds. And in most games, I wouldn't have even touched on this, but Rockstar did it first. Rockstar's the one who went so hard in on immersion that made so many other things such a pain in the ass to try to make me feel like I'm actually in the Wild West. And it becomes colossally frustrating when you have to manually skin every animal, you have to manually loot every single dude, and it's like, okay, you want to have him quickly lean down, open his coat, stick his hand in there, and come back out, that's fine. But Arthur, the game is so slow, and there's like a pathing issue, where if you're not like directly in front of them, but the prompt is still there, Arthur will stop, and he'll spin around, and then he'll turn the other way, and then he'll walk around the body, and then he'll lean down, and then he'll loot it. And it's just like, dude, let's fucking go. And looting the insides of houses and cabinets is a disaster. Arthur manually opens every single cabinet, every single drawer, most of them that don't have shit in them. Your beard grows in real game time, so that's great. And you can trim it by sideburns, chin, and mustache, so you can fine-tune all the lengths, and there's a few styles in there, so that's great. You know, you can smoke cigars, so he'll pull out a cigar, and he'll light a match, and it'll light up, and you'll have the smoke come out, and it's great. And then he immediately chucks it onto the ground. And shopping for clothes is really weird, because there's a million different shirts, a million different vests, a million different pants. Most of them are the same, and there's hardly any coats. The only cool coats are the duster and the scout jacket. The scout jacket comes in a few different colors, and it looks like the scout jacket is something I would wear today in modern time. I don't think there's nearly enough coats, and there's plenty of other NPCs walking around with cool ones. Sadie Adler's during the epilogue with when she's a bounty hunter looks absolutely badass, like she's straight out of Bloodborne with the second shoulder flap. It looks great. Why can't I have that? And out of all the side activities to do, I find most of them mundane or unnecessary. So fishing, dominoes, finger fillet, going to the theater, and hunting the legendary animals I did not bother with. That was all very boring. The only activity I consistently kept coming back to was poker, because poker's fun. Poker's always a good time. Poker and blackjack, but the Texas Hold'em tables are so stiff and so slow. You can't drink, you can't smoke, you can't cheat, you can't accuse somebody of cheating. Every time the round ends, there's this long-ass, unskippable animation where the guy leans forward, pulls in the chips, grins, look left to right, and there's no reason you can't shuffle the next hand and collect the chips simultaneously. And will somebody please clean this nasty-ass, filthy-ass, dirty-ass table? And when you think of westerns and high noon and, you know, cowboys in the Wild West, you think of duels, right? People walking out in the street, challenge each other to the duels, you know, 1, 2, 3, draw, the quick and the dead. I did that once in the entire game. I don't know if I missed something, but like, it was cool that one time, but you cannot just challenge any random stranger to a duel, and you should be able to. But most of the somewhat scripted activity comes from the bounties, but there's not nearly enough of them, and half of them are locked behind the epilogue. So once you finish the epilogue, you get Sadie Adler as a dedicated bounty quest giver, essentially, and even then, there's a limited number. It's like, these bounties should go on basically forever. So in Red Dead Redemption 2, also, you have the opportunity to be an outlaw. You have the opportunity to roleplay as the American government and just go around robbing people. You can press triangle to rob literally everybody. This is almost never worth it because for some reason, I guess we live in real tough times. 9 out of 10 people will just draw their gun and shoot you. I can only remember once or twice where I tried to rob somebody at gunpoint outside of a train, and they actually just gave me their money and then ran away. The other really good thing to rob are the stagecoaches. They're just wandering about the world, so you can just go up, rob those, kill everybody, loot their bodies, and then you have to drive it back to Emerald Ranch, and you'll get between $15 and $40 for it. Problem is, Emerald Ranch is halfway across the map, and it's the only place you can turn these things in. This is a huge, colossal map. There's also some scripted stagecoach sequences where you go to a guy at the train station, he gives you a little tip. The Brotherhood of Discouraged Gentlemen or whatever. And these are more heavily guarded, they carry a lot more money, and they're a lot more fun. You can also rob stores, which is fairly lucrative, but again, most of the time, they refuse to submit, they'll pull a gun on you, you have to shoot him, and your bounty goes up very, very quickly. And there's only so many stores in a town, so if you do this, you rob, you know, the general store guy, maybe the tailor, and then the gunsmith, and then you're wanted in the town, you have to leave. And then that's one of 6 towns or so in the game that you're now unable to use. Also banks. There's 2 fully scripted story missions where you're doing a bank robbery, but you can just walk into one of the banks in every town. You can point your gun. There's even a prompt that says, aim your gun at the bank teller. You pull out your gun, you aim it at the bank teller, and he does literally nothing. You can't give him a bag. For a game that's supposed to be this wide open sandbox that lets the player do whatever they want, roleplay their darkest criminal, robbery, outlaw fantasies of tying women to train tracks, it is so damn restricted. There's clearly sections of buildings that were never designed interiorly that the player simply cannot access. It's not like, oh, if you break the lock or force somebody to open it, you can get in, rob the place, and leave. No, you just can't access it because it doesn't exist. And then the last real target for your thiefly activities would be the trains. Now, if you YouTube Red Dead Redemption 2 train robbery, you get a bunch of videos telling you this lengthy process. You know, buy a ticket to Rig Station, bring a change of clothes and a horse they haven't seen you within, wear your bandito mask, and then shave and wear a different hair, wear a different hat. This is all utter horseshit. No matter what you do, you will get a bounty. It is literally impossible to avoid a bounty. I've tried the tunnel method, I've tried the bridge method. They're both fairly good at keeping the law off of you long enough to let you safely rob the train and the passengers don't hop off and then get away, but you always leave with a bounty. I don't know where this rumor came from, I don't know who started it, but the idea that the NPCs can recognize the clothes you've worn before is an utter, absolute damn lie. And speaking of which, the bounty and honor systems are completely, utterly broken. So honor seems to be of very little consequence. So apparently if your honor is really high or really low, it alters the ending of the game marginally. And regardless of the worst crimes you've committed, going around saying hi to everybody completely absolves your sins. And when you're in a robbery or a gunfight and it's giving you these little ticks for lost honor, looting corpses is apparently wrong, but killing them in the first place isn't. And with bounties, you know, you rob or kill some random guy out in the wilderness, there is always a witness in the middle of damn hell nowhere. Cops are instantly on the scene the moment you're wanted, no matter how far you are from a town or civilization. This is not in real time. They literally spawn like right next to you, and then they ride up with a giant gang of cops, and they all try to kill you, and you kill them all, and then now your bounty is 5 times what it was initially. I swear, one time I robbed a stagecoach right in front of Emerald Ranch. The damn fence called the cops. This mask that you pull up to obscure your identity is literally useless. You always get a bounty, no matter, I robbed the train, I never saw the law, I got wanted, the law were down stuck in the ravine, so the method worked to keep the guys off of me. I had the train stuck on the bridge, I had my mask on the entire time, I had a new change of clothes, new horse, I went around, robbed everybody, I didn't even get within 10 feet of a lawman wanted John Marston. I don't understand how you can call this game a masterpiece when you have dozens of fundamental mechanics that don't work. Right after paying my bounty one time at a train station, I was walking out, accidentally bumped into a guy on the door, and he was like, "Watch where you're going." And Arthur, not being one to forgive and forget, antagonizes him back and says, like, "You're a big man here." And then this guy decks me I get up, I punch him back in self-defense, he draws a gun on me, I shoot him dead before he gets the chance to pull the trigger, 100% in self-defense, he started it, and I get a bounty. Is this supposed to be some profound allegory on the broken American justice system or some shit? Because that is absolutely ridiculous. Alright, so people seem to be relatively reasonable. People acknowledge, like, yeah, the mask thing is dumb. Yeah, you know, the controls are finicky at times. Yeah, the systems don't always work. You know, but this game is such a masterpiece because of the story and the characters, man. I just got so invested, and I couldn't let up. Red Dead Redemption 2's story is terrible. It is not a good story. That's a little overrated. It is not a mediocre, average, run-of-the-mill story. It is terrible. It is awful. This is some of the worst writing I have ever seen. If you think Red Dead Redemption 2 is on par with the likes of The Last of Us, BioShock, or God of War, you have lost your mind. Rockstar has written here some of the most cyclic, repetitive, plotless trash I've ever seen. Every single chapter of the game amounts to, "Now, Arthur, we are gonna get out of here, but first, we need some money." So Hosea and Dutch plan this elaborate heist, and then you go off, you ride for 20 frickin' minutes on your horse riding simulator 2018. If you try anything remotely creative, or go ahead, mission failure, the whole thing goes tits up, you end up having to kill half the town, and you end up having to pick up camp and move to the next town, chapter 2. And then again, Dutch goes, "Arthur, I have a plan. One more big score." "Dutch, we ain't so good at scores no more." "Have a little goddamn faith." This game has no plot. The only chapter that gets a little bit interesting is the one with the Greys and the Braithwaites, because you're actually infiltrating the police deputies, and you're kind of playing both sides of the feud, trying to get in the middle of it. That chapter had a little depth to it, but Gwarma, oh my god. Because what I wanted was to be more on rails. What I wanted was to be more restricted. Now, I don't have any of my weapons. I don't have my horse. I can't go back to town. I can't play poker. I can't rob a stagecoach. I can't do shit because I'm trapped on a desert frickin' island. And this is the only part of the game where Dutch gets any character growth at all. Where it finally hits him like, "I'm sorry. My ways led us here. I have led thee astray, gentlemen." And it could have easily been a turning point for Dutch, but no, he goes back to, "I have a plan, have faith." And his plan is just rob some fucking place. Dutch is a horrible character. Dutch is a fraudulent hack. Micah is just a creepy, one-dimensional retard, and this story is full of holes. The entire time, they keep trying additional heists, and they don't make a single effort to go back to Blackwater and get the 100+ grand or whatever that it was. "But Wesley, they said the Blackwater stuff was too well guarded. No, they couldn't go back and get it." "Oh, okay, so we'll do something less dangerous. Like, take on the entire United States cavalry with these redskin fucks who show up 90% of the way through the game, like we're now gonna introduce characters this late in our plot, and oh, it weighs heavily on Dutch and Arthur's hearts. Oh, they want to help these people. They have a kindred spirit in running from Uncle Sam. They're good people. You know, they were wrong. You know how much sympathy I have for Native Americans, both in the game and in real life? They were murdering and torturing and scalping and raping and cannibalizing each other long before Western Europeans showed up. Your culture was savage, it was uncivilized, and it was evil. Convert to Christianity or get lost." In this game's epilogue, so spoiler alert, spoilers I guess, the game's epilogue, Arthur gets shot in the face, Arthur gets tuberculosis, and Micah shoots him in the face. Arthur has a decent arc, so as the game continues and progresses, he gets more and more sick of killing people, and he loses faith in Dutch, and realizes the gang's falling apart, and then when he catches tuberculosis, he's confronted with his own mortality, and decides to turn over a new leaf, so to speak, to help Abigail and Tilly escape instead of go back for the money. And the game clearly should have ended there, but they want to give you an opportunity to keep playing. Like, look, you cannot kill off your main character in an open world game. You just can't. It doesn't work. So you play as John Marston now if you want to continue. It's the same thing they did in Red Dead 1. John Marston got killed and you play as the son if you want to have any endgame content. And once again, the game throws you back into linear story restricted mode, takes away your guns, takes away your freedom, puts you on a ranch, because that's what I want to do. I want to shovel fucking shit. And they were clearly going for a character arc with John where, oh, he had to go from being an outlaw to being a family man, you know? And they implied that they were trying to be honest, but he kept ended up shooting people. And Abigail leaves him at Pronghorn Ranch because Abigail is a cheating, skanky whore. That's the only possible way she could justify that, because he does literally nothing wrong the entire time on Pronghorn Ranch. He saves lives, he puts in a good word with his employer, he saves his wife, he saves his child, he saves his employment, he saves other innocent people there. He is literally doing objective, good heroism the entire time. And Abigail gets pissed at him and leaves because she's fucking stupid. Okay, John, I hope you learned your lesson. Don't take orders from broads. Now, when people say, you know, there's a good story, you're talking about the story as a whole. That is a very, very complex thing you just summarized in one sentence. There's a lot of aspects to a story. There's the acting, there's the writing, there's the directing, there's the plot structure, there's the side quests. I think some of the characters are quite good. Arthur Morgan in particular is a badass. He's very funny, he's very charismatic, he's an angry, dangerous outlaw who's got a soft spot for women, you know? That's likable, because because we're the good guys, we're the gang that doesn't rape people.
I'm waiting on a lady. She's a fine lady. She's just gone inside. If I wasn't waiting on this lady, you'd be dead already. But if you continue to irritate me, I'll kill you. I make my apologies to the lady. It's your call.
Sadie Adler is basically live-action Jessie from Toy Story in a rated R movie. She's great.
Animal ate us?
No, ma'am. That weren't it.
Yes, it were. Come here. Come here.
John Marston develops pretty well. Hosea seems to be one of the only people who doesn't like killing. I have to say the best part of the story were the debt collection missions with Leopard Strauss, where your gang is like lending money to people like the mafia, and then they can't pay it back, so you go and you beat it out of them. Out of all the criminal, horrible, evil, sinful things you do, that was by far the worst. For some reason, just collecting on debt with this sick, dying man that you know full well couldn't take it back, taking his wedding ring off of him in front of his family and looting his house makes you feel legitimately terrible. So those were very well done. But all that talent, all that nuance, all that thematic maturity, completely absent from the rest of the story. It is the same shit over and over and over again, and it drags on far too long, and the fact that you switch camps every chapter doesn't take any of the boredom or tedium out of it. And if you want a lengthier explanation for why the story's terrible, I'll link a video in the description and I'll post it on my community tab too. There was like an hour-long video I found. He's got a really annoying British voice, but if you can get past that, I mean, if you can tolerate my voice, you'll be fine. But he takes the entire hour to tear apart 3 specific things the game does, and it's very well done. Literally, the mission design is right out of 2005. It is so scripted, it is so restricted, it is so linear. I'm telling you, sometimes when I've had to return bounties in the story mode, I got off my horse 2 steps too early, and the game says, like literally, we're at the sheriff's office, and the game says, get back on your horse. So I try to go forward, doesn't let me. Okay, I get back on my horse. My horse moves forward 1 hoof print, and then a cutscene happens and I get off my horse. Like, are you shitting me? And the game is so up and down, inconsistent with that. It's like some aspects of the game, particularly the world design, the art, the sounds, all the different animals. It's not just like squirrel, fox, deer, bear. There's like 18 kinds of deer. It took them, what, 7 years to make this game? And in some aspects with the graphics and the world, it clearly shows. And then you have the story, which looks like all the missions were penned by one guy in an afternoon. And it's like, get your priorities straight, Rockstar. It's like, you can't just go all in on graphics, hire a couple decent actors, and then demand a 10. I think the combat, mediocre. I think the robbing stagecoaches and the robbing trains, that kind of stuff, I think that's really novel. I really like that. I really like getting in the setting. I like playing dress up to an extent, even though I got problems with how limited it is. I like poker, even though I got problems with how limited it is. I did not like the story one bit at all. I like Arthur Morgan as a character. His dialogue is well written, well acted, but it is completely predictable where this game ends up going. And it's like, bro, if this is the best you'd had, just don't write a story. Just flesh out the open world mechanics. Give us more options when it comes to robbing stuff. Let us rob banks. Let us rob stores more betterer. It's like, know your strength, man. You don't have to do everything, but if you're gonna do everything, you better damn well do it well. If I had to number it, it'd probably be a 6, but masterpiece. I've got a masterpiece for you. I got your masterpiece right here. I've been through the desert on a horse.